There we go.
Yep.
Perfect, thanks. Just check once in a while.
Sure.
Okay. Okay guys, let's get started. Now, have a seat. Maybe sit there a little. I think I'll stand on this side of the screen. Okay, so welcome to the tech workshop. So my name is Peter. I look like, for people who are new to me, look like some foreigner who landed in Bangalore yesterday, but I've actually been here the last 22 years, mostly in Chennai, my place where I used to work. So we'll have a nice presentation, nice mix of stuff. We are recording the session, so maybe leave a little bit of a gap. You can sit here. Yeah. So I have like a 1-hour presentation, which will give a small introduction about myself, people who are new to me. Also about the group we started in Chennai, the Chennai Trekking Club, a big outdoor community of some 40,000 outdoor sports enthusiasts. And more recently in my life, I actually went from a corporate full-time employee to now a food-free man running in the mountains most of the years. I'm just coming to the city only to plan my next journey, or again, I give a couple of talks like this. My way of, this is about hiking, but I'm a little bit different than the average hiker, so I will explain about my way of hiking. This is not specific to the Himalayas, also valid. Like I went to Maharashtra, climbed 204 there in Sahyadris. But my style of hiking is like Alpine style, so I don't use any local guides, I don't go with groups in general. Find my own way in the wild. I'll explain a little bit how I do that. I'm also like a minimalist. I tend to go very light, hardly like some 3-4 kilograms on my back, not like with those 60 liter, 25 kilogram backpacks that you usually see in the Himalayas. And I'll give a couple of tips on maps, navigation, and some other things which I've been learning, especially the last 2 years as I've been into the mountains almost full time. So let's get started. Small introduction. Yeah, so originally I'm from Belgium, small place in Europe. As you can see, I was already a little bit of a minimalist at a young age. So this is me, I think at the age of 3 on a beach in Belgium. So India is a big coastline. I think you have some 5,000 kilometer of beaches in India, being like a big lot of coastline. We just have like some 60 kilometers of beaches in Chennai. Mostly we don't have good weather, so they will be completely empty. Maybe 2 weeks in a year we will have a blue sky, so then 10 million Belgians will be trying to find an empty spot on the 60 kilometers of beach, which is quite funny. Mostly people go to the beach to get a nice tan in Europe. they like tan. So main thing about this slide is that I was actually lucky to be brought up very outdoorsy. My parents used to take me hiking, mom used to take me to the swimming pool when I was 3. I used to go to the Alps once in a year, hiking with the parents in the mountains. So at a very young age I got exposed to a lot of outdoor sports, used to run with my neighbors' loops in the neighborhood, used to swim in the lakes. So, and I think that made a big impression on the rest of my life, because as you're young, your brain is very receptive to whatever you're doing, and anything you learn at a young age obviously has a much bigger impact to you. Once you're an adult, you're a little bit rusted in your, both physically and also in your open-mindedness to learn something new. So, next slide. So I finished my Master's of Computer Engineering in Belgium. Yeah. And I came in India in '98.
Good evening, users. We have a track workshop happening in the cafe. Interested users, please head to the cafe. Thank you.
So I actually came to India for just IT. We didn't find software engineers in Europe in '97, '98. So came to Delhi, Hyderabad, where I had to get a 1-day permit to get a beer. So like, yeah. And we set up a small software office in Chennai. That time Bangalore did not have an international airport, so that I guess why we choose Chennai. It's not the best climate there. But I mean, forget about the office. I mean, that was just Monday to Friday. During the weekends, almost every weekend of the year, I started exploring India, all its nature. So initially on the bike with an old Enfield Bullet city bike, 535 Lightning, predecessor of the current one, which is the Thunderbird basically. Anybody knows this place? That's awesome question, so people don't fall asleep. Yeah, Ladakh. Which place in Ladakh? Yeah, Kardula. The highest, they call it the highest motorable pass in the world. Leh is on the other side. This is seen from the Kardum side. So I used to get this bike and almost every weekend of the year, put the bike, Friday night, put the bike on the train, pack it up, go to Kerala, 2 days in the Western Ghats biking, twice in a year go to the Himalayas actually and explore the lesser known roads, mostly in the mountains. So then again, fast forwarding 10 years in the next slide. Next slide. So in 2007, 2008, I started hiking actually. I started discovering the beautiful virgin jungles of Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu. Used to go to this Tamil Nadu Reserve Forest, the Shaklespoor railway track, which some of you might know if you have been hiking in the Western Ghats. And that was amazing actually. I was going mostly with the only people I know, people from my office, right, young IT professionals. But there very soon I faced my challenge, which I'm still facing. So all these guys used to come with me for quite a few weekends in a year. They used to finally come to me to meet me to hand over their marriage invitation, and after that I never used to see them again. They just disappeared from the planet, dropping all their passion for the outdoor sports. And that's why actually I ran out of company soon to go pursue outdoors on a very regular basis every weekend, and I started this Chennai Trekking Club, which was a non-profit, volunteer-based organization in 2008 February. And within 2-3 months actually, this worked very well. We had a lot of IT crowd in Chennai, people sitting behind computer displays Monday to Friday, kind of thing, getting a little bit frustrated in that cubicle and wanting to go out in the wild, at least on weekends. So within 2-3 months, we had like 20-30 people joining us, new people constantly coming in. I think we had like 2,000 members in the first year. After 10 years, we grew to almost 40,000 people in this group. From trekking initially, we started doing sports activities, running, cycling, open water swimming, started organizing triathlons. I think CTC is still the only one in India since 2012 who has been organizing the full Iron Triathlon, which is like 4 kilometers of swimming, 180 kilometers of cycling, followed by running a full marathon, which is like a big endurance event. So sports activities, cleanup activities. We also did a lot of work in the Chennai floods, the recent Gaja cyclone. We started doing social treks, taking out orphan kids. So very beautiful, active group, non-commercial, totally different cultures, non-profit, volunteer-based basically. Okay, and then more recent in the next slide, to finish my introduction, I started running somewhere in 2013 in Chennai City. We started organizing 10 by 10 runs. So 10 continuous days, you're gonna run 10 kilometers. So we did the first series, we did the second series, 7th, 8th series. So we're running like 700 to 800 kilometers, very consistently. Soon upgrading to trail running in the city and the mountains, because running in the city on this traffic on the roads is not that interesting. Recording is still fine, thanks. So very soon, right, I was running in these beautiful places. This is again in the Himalayas. Any idea which place this could be?
Pangi Valley.
Perfect, Pangi Valley. Yeah. So Pangi is actually from Manali, you cross the Rohtang Pass, and then most people go straight, either take a ride to Spiti, go straight to Leh. But on the left side, you have the Pangi Valley, actually, the Chandrabhaga, the river valley, Chandra coming from Chandratal, Bhaga coming from the Barachala Pass. And that's one of the most beautiful places, as long as you stay on the road, that is, in the Himalayas, actually, non-touristic. Every 15-20 kilometers you have a village, making it perfect for a runner because you find your food on the way, you find your stay on the way. You can run very light, actually. So since 2015, actually, almost every year, we used to go to the Himalayas, do these like 700 kilometer runs from Shimla through the Spiti Valley, through the Pangi Valley, end up in Jammu. Like 700 kilometers over 12 days, 50 kilometers per day. So within just, I guess, 2 years of running, just consistency got us there. The body got tuned. Everyone in the room here can do these things. It's just all about consistency. Your body is built to run. You just need to consistently work out. Go for your run 4 or 5 times a week. Do it for a couple of weeks and months, and you will be able to do amazing things. Okay, chapter 1 done. Next chapter, ultra journeys. So then 2 years back in my life, to July 2017, I made a major change. It was highly time for a change, which I should have done much earlier. So whenever I went on these long runs or long trips, we used to cycle in Vietnam, we used to cycle with Noble in Sri Lanka. We always were very confined in time. You always had to get back to office 1 or 2 weeks later because you only have like 3-4 weeks of corporate leave. And I was always very frustrated. You were never actually free. You always were counting the number of days till you had to take the flight back to Chennai, sit again in your 5x5 feet cubicle. So the next slide. In July 2017, I actually had a vision. I don't know from where it came. I'm not much of a religious person, but the fact is that I could not see myself sitting in this cubicle for the next 20 years. I could not see myself sitting, commuting in traffic. And this daily routine of office, sleeping, going to work, office, even though I was going out every weekend, was actually a mental killer. Daily routine is nothing exciting. Waiting for your next big trip 6 months from now in July, August to go to the Himalayas felt very frustrating. I was earning a lot of money in Cisco, but still I said, ditch it. The money is not giving me happiness. It's not satisfying the soul. Buy a lot of crap, materialistic stuff, which doesn't make a difference. Eventually you end up with a lot of items, whatever, phones, cars, bikes, nice house, that doesn't give you any satisfaction in life. So I decided to quit Cisco in that time.
Fairs to welcome desk, requesting fairs to welcome desk.
In July, and then actually switched automatically to a minimalist lifestyle, of course, because I had to keep my expenses under control now. As I was earning a lot of money, I could burn a lot of money. This was actually, totally unknown for me. I didn't know 100% how I was going to manage financially. But I can tell you, once you get out of these cities, once you start spending most of your life in the mountains, then life becomes very simple and actually cheap even, which we'll discuss later. Only in the cities we tend to spend a lot of money on unnecessary items. Next. So then, after I quit my job immediately, I did my first big, what I call ultra journey. Ultra journey basically means ultra is a long endurance journey. And it's actually not about running, it's more about the journey. I'm not there looking at my watch, so many kilometers or this pace, or I have to reach that destination as soon as possible. It's just about traveling for months, for thousands of kilometers, in a beautiful natural location, where you get to meet a lot of nice people who have not sold their soul to money, who have not been commercialized, innocent people, nice people, where you experience a lot of unexpected hospitality also. Right, so there I didn't know how long it would take. I started running a marathon every day in this kind of beautiful surroundings. And after 50 days, I reached 2,000 kilometers. This was my first solo trip, by the way. Otherwise, in CTC, we're always going out with 20, 30, 40 runners, cyclists. But this was actually a nice journey, very peaceful, alone. There was nobody but you and the mountains. Nobody there, mostly very sparsely populated. And even though you're running alone, everywhere in Vietnam, this is North Vietnam, close to the border with China. You have many, many small settlements, people living in bamboo huts, living together with their animals, and experienced amazing hospitality. Out of 50 nights, almost 40 nights I slept in nice, natural homes, bamboo homes, drinking vodka with the Vietnamese, green tea, having nice soupy noodles with all kinds of meats and vegetables. So amazing experience, pretty minimalist, right? You just see what I'm wearing here, dry fit tee, shorts, simple shoes, and then for the night I was carrying I think a 15-liter backpack, nothing big. As a runner you cannot carry too much, every 100 grams makes a big impact while you're running. A simple thermocol mat to sleep, and I cut the base of a Decathlon T2 tent to basically cover myself in case it rains or in case the night is cold. This was in the winter months. Okay, then next, just coming to the more recent trip. Some of you who follow me online might have seen that I was in Maharashtra in November and December. So this actually happened after I came back from a long trip in the Himalayas this summer. I was looking at the map of South India, what to do during the winter. North is a little bit cold in winter. So, and then my eye fell on Maharashtra, because actually if you look at it, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, these days it's becoming pretty restrictive. Police department, I see not too much of scope anymore to explore it. There's a lot of beautiful Western Ghats here, but there's not much of scope actually in terms of permissions to enter those places. So in Maharashtra, there I immediately noticed from some Instagrammers, they were posting nice pictures, especially during the monsoon, of those forts, those Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj forts. Started collecting names of forts, putting a big map together, and before I knew I had some 200 forts marked on the map, from all the way from Nasik to Satara to Mahabaleshwar region. So pretty much big spread out. So after putting those 200 dots on the map, I just figured out like a most optimal route to cover these 200 forts. And at the rate of climbing almost like sometimes 6 to 8 forts in a day, I was able to wrap up this thing, which normally people don't do in a lifetime, I think in just 2 months. So a nice experience, because as you can see, the Western Ghats look quite different here. These are like ancient volcanoes, like very, very steep pinnacles, they call them, which were like strategic in those days. This is all built in the 16th, 17th century, when Chhatrapati was fighting with a handful of warriors against these big armies from the Mughals coming from the north repetitively to plunder that part of India. And using this kind of steep defensive systems, he could easily fight off those big armies using the geography of the Sahyadris. Okay, now coming to the matter of the topic, the Himalayas. So, yeah, I have been going to the Himalayas, as you saw, on bike, on cycle since 2000, so almost 20 years. But in terms of like mountaineering, you can't even call it mountaineering, because I don't know anything on technical climbing. I'm not a climber, I'm just like a runner. I like to keep my feet on solid ground. I'm not too much into ropes and technical ascents or peak climbing. So, but I've not been exposed to like at least passes, high passes climbing, maybe like altitudes of 4, 5, 6,000 meter altitude in very remote places in the Himalayas. Mostly I was running or biking in the valleys. But during a run in 2017, I guess, I saw a big board of Himachal tourist department showing actually various shortcuts between valleys. So instead of following the valley all the way, you could actually shortcut, say from Chandratal, you can directly go to Badachala. You don't have to follow the road to Manali. That beautiful shortcuts that seemed like amazing to try out. So in 2018, actually, I did my first big trip, which was around 40 passes during summer, and then last year I did the biggest one, where I spent all the way from May till September in the Himalayas, covering 3,500 kilometers. More than this, actually, this seems like a big number to you maybe, but more than this, it was like the vertical elevation in the climb, basically. What is your vertical distance, you can say 160,000 meter or 160 kilometer vertical, which is, to give you a perspective, around 18 times the height of Mount Everest, from sea level to the peak of Everest. Of course, not being at those extreme altitudes like Everest, 7,000-8,000 meters, but still climbing a lot of distance, which actually drains your energy. More than anything, it's climbing with your bag over very challenging terrain, over these steep passes, is what burns your calories and what drains you over there compared to running on a flat space. So I was able to cover around 120 passes in 4 months, so that means I was covering like 1 pass per day. It's quite fast. Not really running, but you can say somewhere fast hiking in between. The regular average hiker going 4 to 5 times as fast, even though not running like you do in normal trails, given the challenging terrain and the steepness. And then also I was covering around 340 villages in Uttarakhand, Himachal, Ladakh, where again I experienced very warm hospitality, especially as a person going there solo, without any guides, without a group, basically traveling myself in again non-commercial, non-touristic places where people are not kind of in a commercialized mindset. You see a lot of unexpected hospitality, basically. Next slide. So all that stuff I've been documenting nicely. So one thing that I noticed whenever I plan these journeys is it took me weeks and weeks almost to plan, right? 3,500 kilometers is a long route, 120 passes. If you look at it, the government has no proper documentation because they just promote Manali, Leh, Shimla. They're not really into this kind of stuff. And also, you have quite a few hikers in the Himalayas, but very few people actually blog their experiences. Which becomes a problem because many of these things are not touristic, they are not very well known, and it takes a lot of time studying maps, analyzing satellite maps, looking at trails in various databases, blogs, to put together a big journey like this. So having gone through that experience, I started documenting the entire journey on my blog, which you'll see later, ultrajourneys.org. to make it easier for other people who are interested in this kind of journeys to follow my footsteps, having all the information available, how easy, difficult, moderate some of the trek passes are that I crossed on my journey. Next slide then. So just to finish a high-level introduction. So this year actually I started from Darchula, the border of Nepal, across the whole of Uttarakhand here in around 30 passes. Every red dot is a pass. Every blue dot is like a village. So this is May, basically passes below 4,000 meters, and May there's still a lot of snow in the upper passes, like above 4,000 or 5,000 meters. So then in the month of June I jumped to this place. Here you have Manali Kulu. So this is actually the Great Himalaya National Park. It's a very beautiful place. It's a restricted ecosystem, a protected biosphere actually. Amazing place between Kulu, the Parvati Valley and here Kinnaur. And then the rest of June I spent a lot of time in the Dolador range. This range here is like it's like a wall from the plains, from the Kangra plains of the Himalayas, Dharmasala. You have this big wall of 4,500 meter high mountains called the Dolador range, where you have several passes actually to enter into Chamba. Chamba Valley is beyond this. This is Kangra, this is Chamba Valley. So that went down the whole of June, and then when July the monsoon hits the Himalayas, so all this lower Himalayas actually becomes out of reach, too much of rain, ferocious streams, landslides. So then I actually jumped over the Pir Panjal range here. This is like a 5,500 meter high wall through the Kanglab. And I spent July and August in Zanskar, Ladakh and Lahore, doing a lot of beautiful passes in like a high altitude desert. This place is completely blocked from monsoon rains, so it's like dry, like a rock desert, no vegetation at all. And here is beautiful. You have this Himis National Park where it's very remote, very interior. Sometimes 5-6 days you don't meet anyone, no village or so. So we are recording, maybe move a little to the right. So that was the overall schedule, right? So it's not about just 120 passes, it's all about how do you traverse these passes in the right sequence according to snowmelt, according to monsoon. And then also when you look at mid-August is your peak summer. So then it's when you have maximum meltwater coming from these huge glaciers. The glacier is not like something the size of this building. A glacier is something like the size of this part of Bangalore. So when the sun starts beaming on that at mid-August in the afternoon, then there's so much of water generated from that some of these interior canyons and gorges have so much of water current that it's impossible to cross. So those places you can then only attempt towards September when the meltwater flow is less. Okay, so now we come to the main topic of the presentation, maybe the next slide, where I'll talk a little about, just the next slide. So where I'll talk about Alpine style hiking. So we'll give a small introduction. So if you go to the next slide, next slide. So what is Alpine style hiking? So here you see a typical expedition style, and here you see like an Alpine style. So if you look at this picture, what do you think is the difference between both approaches? Yeah, so hey, this is a group indeed, but even a group could go Alpine style, basically speaking. This is a slow line group.
Basically, there is no fixed rope in Alpine style. They fix the rope. There is no fixed rope in Alpine.
So it's less guidance, of course, right? Indeed, you have to find your own way. These guys are just waiting in the queue, so the Sherpas or the guide will open the route, put the ropes, everything in place, and you're just, I think this might be a picture of Everest these days, where people stand in the queue waiting for the guy in front of them to move. So you can see it's a little bit different, right? You're actually following a big line of people here, so that kind of stuff doesn't excite me. Whenever people ask when you're going to climb Everest, first of all, I'm no interest in spending 50 lakhs for one peak. I would rather spend 20,000 rupees on 120 passes, doing 200 rupees per pass, by the way. I'll explain how I do that in a minute. What else do you see difference here?
The luggage. The luggage you're carrying.
The luggage, yeah. So these guys carry a lot of luggage here. I also, with this route, unless you could say these guys maybe go higher altitude, but still, I was crossing 6,000 meter high things with pretty extreme weather. So that's more about minimalism. So we'll talk about that also, how I reduce a 60 liter backpack to just like a 20 liter backpack from 25 kg to just 5 kg, make it much easier and much faster to traverse these passes. What else do you see? The guys have a lot of stuff on their back, but who is carrying their tents, who is carrying their food? Voila. Then you can wonder why do they have a bigger bag than a guy who is actually carrying his food and carrying his tent also, right? Right, but see the difference. I mean, the main thing of Alpine style is actually that you're going independent. Doesn't have to be solo. You can also go with 3-4 friends. But you basically plan your route, you find your route, which is so much more thrilling, so much adventurous than just going following the rope or following the queue of a predefined expedition and not even carrying your own luggage, which I feel is not very respectful. If you're gonna dump all your heavy luggage on a poor Sherpa who puts up the tent, who runs ahead of you, puts up the tent, prepares the tomato soup for you by the time you reach the village, that's not very like something to be proud about or say, okay, I did this trek. You didn't do the trek because you didn't carry your luggage and you were just following somebody. Okay, next slide. Okay, what's the difference between these two guys? Yeah. So what would be the impact? I mean, we'll talk about, say, how we reduce this to this in the presentation. But what would be the impact of carrying 60 liters with 25-30 kilograms of bag on your back? You're going to be slow. If you're going to be slow, what's the impact of going slow?
Cover less distance.
Cover less distance. So what is the side effect of covering, saying having 10 days to cross Queen Parvati instead of just doing 2 days?
You're spending more time to climb and you need more resources.
More resources means?
Food supplies,
Correct. You have to carry 10 days of food, right, instead of just 15 chapatis with some peanut butter and carrying much more stuff. You'll also have 10 campsites, which means you're going to camp at much higher altitudes where it's much colder in the night, so you'll have to carry more shelter and more stuff. Right? So, and then also the fact that struggling with, carrying this bag up is, again, it's nice to walk in the showroom here, or on a flat place, or in the Western Ghats even, but climbing up these steep passes, they have 5,000-6,000 meters where there's less oxygen. Many of these people that I've seen a lot of Europeans even in Ladakh. Some of them are going Alpine style, they're really independent without guides. But many of them, none of the guys goes minimalist. Everybody's carrying a big bag and everyone is actually struggling with the bag. They're not struggling to climb up there. It's not the pass, but it's the bag which is actually pulling them down like anything. Okay, so you can see the relation, right, between slow, heavy means slow, but also slow means that you become heavier because you have to carry more supplies as you're going to spend more time there. Okay, next one. Yeah, so this we covered. Next. Okay, so fast hiking now. So I'm not really a pure hiker, I'm more like an intersection of a runner and a mountaineer now, so that means I'm like a bit of a fast hiker. So there are actually 4 reasons why I go. Obviously, one is that I'm a runner. I'm used to running fast. My legs are pretty tuned. I used to run 4,000 kilometers per year, even in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, when we used to do hill runs in Goli, Palani Hills, Javadu Hills. But in addition to the pace, to the speed, there are other things that make you fast actually. Obviously, one is minimalist, lightweight. You can go much faster with a small bag. But then also the fact of acclimatization. So one benefit of actually these ultra journeys is that people who go for just one pass, they will have to acclimatize obviously. They cannot directly go to 5,000 meters. They have to, from 3,000 meters onwards, they'll have to do 500 meter increases per day. So that also limits that's also the reason actually why people take multiple days for a trek, for a pass where I just cross it in a single day. Plus then of course the group that organizes your trek wants you to be there for 10 days so they can charge you for 10 days rather than letting you go easily in maybe 4 or 5 days. And then also the day schedule. I think this is again group related. The fact is that most of the commercial groups, I think they wake up comfortably whenever they feel like it. They have their breakfast by 9, they start by 10, they pitch up by 2. Why by 2? Because they have to wait for the slowest guy to reach the campsite before evening. So they just trek for 4 hours a day, sometimes 4-6 hours. I normally get up when the sun rises, I sleep when the sun sets, so it gives me 10 to 12 hours of hiking time. So that all these things combined actually allows you to cover much more distance and also much more enjoyable actually than going with an expedition where you have to wait for the group. Okay, next. So then again, minimalism, it doesn't just come from taking less with you. There are several reasons how you can reduce your weight. One of course is obviously the gears, carrying only the essentials with you. Carrying only the essentials with you. Then of course the kind of gear that you can get a 0 degree heavy sleeping bag of 3 kilograms, or you can get a lightweight 600 gram bag which also keeps you warm at 0 degrees. So sometimes like you can carry carbon poles versus metal poles. So the quality of the gears also makes a lot of difference, but except for the gears, there are a lot of other things. One is of course food planning. What I usually do is, even though I explore always new passes, I always try to because I'm pretty good with map reading, I try to accurately estimate how long it will take to the next village and only carry sufficient food to that village. So I don't carry weeks of food with me, I don't need a porter, I just carry 2-3 days of food. And when the food runs out, I reach the next village where I resupply. Cooking also, I cook when needed, normally not, we'll talk about that later, but I don't carry any cooking fuel or cooking stuff with me. I just use nature to cook my food, as we'll see. And then again, shelter. A lot of weight actually comes from shelter. People will easily carry a 3 kilogram, 3 kilogram backpack, a lot of other warm stuff. It will be like most of the bag actually will go in some 6 to 8 kilograms to keep you warm at night. Optimizing the shelter, you can save a lot of weight, as I will discuss in the presentation. Okay. If you look at this picture, so we have Alpine, we have minimalist. If you look at this picture, solo, what would be the impact of going solo? Like a couple of things that make it completely different from even another group, a small group of 3-4 people who also go Alpine style, who also go minimalist. So solo versus group, what does it mean?
Solo gives you more focus, like you'll be more concentrated.
Exactly, yeah, that's a very good point. So whenever I'm alone, I can see that I'm extremely focused because there is nobody around me to ask anything or discuss anything or to wait for the person to catch up or to see if he's hungry or he wants to settle down. Alone, you're completely focused. I cover much more distance going solo than whenever anyone joins me of the same fitness level. So that's a good one. Focus, what else? Remind you're walking solo in like a huge landscape, sometimes very overwhelming. Makes you feel very small in the huge Himalayan landscape. So what else? What other emotions or experiences will come out solo?
Peacefulness.
Yeah, definitely peacefulness, right? So we're constantly surrounded by hundreds of people in office, in cities, in traffic. So going there is like, whoa, a total kind of meditative, almost spiritual experience, especially when you go solo, nobody around you. We're like days and days away from any human settlement. That's one thing, and then also the fact that you're in a very overwhelming landscape, especially Zanskar Ladakh, that looks like you're walking on a different planet. So that you feel a little bit scared at initially because it looks like all new, what if anything happens, nobody around me. But once you overcome that kind of initial fear, it's really like extremely peaceful to be there on your own, hearing nothing but the wind. And in this kind of landscape, you don't even have animals. I mean, except for the snow leopard, which might be watching you from a distance. But nobody is there around you, no birds, nothing actually. It's not friendly for animals to live here. What else solo? What other different experiences will it give you?
Confidence.
Confidence, definitely, yeah. I mean, once you are used to traveling solo, actually it makes you extremely confident because you can do your stuff alone, you can manage alone, you know how to find a way, you know how to be safe, all that stuff. You're not depending on anyone, you're not actually following anyone also.
Sense of achievement.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, this is the real thing, right? You're the only one doing it, you're really doing it. It's nobody else who either contributes in any way, helps you with any aspects in terms of navigation or carrying stuff or whatever. Yeah. Another two important differences with group trekking. Any idea?
Pick your own pace.
Definitely, that is always there. Total freedom, so you go how you want it. No need to ask anyone where to stop, when to eat, and all. Your complete freedom. You can take a left, you can take a right. Nobody is going to question you. Yeah, so another thing with solo is of course risk involved, right? If anything happens to you, there's nobody even to know that anything has happened, let alone get a rescue party. So you need to be a little careful, of course, that you don't slide into a crevice. So that's the end of it. Nobody's going to find you in this overwhelming landscape. And then another thing, which I already mentioned, is as solo, typically what I experience is that wherever you end up, in a remote hamlet, in a Gujar, a mountain tribe, people who live disconnected from society in the forest there, or with shepherds that, as you come alone there from the hill, Sundari, hello. As you come along, people immediately take notice first. They look at you and they think, oh, where is the guide coming? That guy went ahead of the guy, but then they don't see anybody else. And then, oh, that poor guy is maybe a lost tourist or something. They take pity on you, and they feel a bit responsible because they live in that place and they think, hey, you're alone there, and they kind of feel responsible to take care of you, quickly invite you into their home, give you food, give you tea. So the best hospitality I experienced going solo. If you're there with a group of 10 people barging into a little village, forget it. Nobody's going to invite you into their home, basically. Okay, then Decathlon wanted me to talk about gear, so after the session you guys go. I'm just joking, and buy stuff. So we'll talk about the gears, because even though you go minimalist, you need the right gears. So again, keep in mind, this is my view. This might not be the average hiking view. Base layer, we'll first talk about base layers, right? What you use for your morning till evening, sunrise till sunset. We'll talk about staying warm in the night later. So this is me as a fast hiker. So I go fast, I climb up fast. So I constantly generate heat. The last thing I need is a jacket, which will make me blow up, because my body needs to ventilate. So I go fast, so I want to have something breathable to keep my body ventilated, to let the body heat go away. Very comfortable in hot climate, very comfortable in monsoon, rainy climate, because it dries instantly. Same for the shoes. I don't want to close boots, which is waterproof, because the water will get in and it will never get out. As you cross hundreds of streams along the way, as you go in the snow and it gets wet, as you get into the rain in the lower Himalayas and the water soaks in your boot, big trouble, feet get wet and it will be hard to dry. So I prefer, again, being a runner, for a breathable running shoe. 3 benefits: it's lightweight, much lighter than a boot. It has also, it's meant for trail running, so it has a proper sole to get a good grip in the terrain in the Himalayas. And then there are also non-breathable ones, but I like the breathable mesh ones. You can walk through a stream and within 10 to 15 minutes your foot will be dry, which is very important because your feet are some of the parts of the body that will sweat the most, obviously, because they are not ventilated. They are in that shoe the whole day. You're burning 6,000 to 8,000 calories, so a lot of smelliness is there. You typically need to carry 2 pairs of socks, one that you wear and the other pair of socks that you wash and keep on your back to dry and wear the next day. So this is my base layer. So if you look at all my photos on Instagram and Facebook, you'll always see me not in a yellow, mostly in a pink t-shirt. Guess why? And in shorts on glaciers, doesn't matter, because I go fast, and I'm not joking, I'm not showing off or something. I'm feeling okay, I'm going there pretty fast, and I'm not feeling cold at all. Then next slide, so once it really gets, the weather changes, at higher altitudes the weather is pretty volatile. It might be a blue sky now, 10 minutes later it gets cloudy, it starts, you get a blizzard, like a snow blizzard, very cold. It might be rain in the lower Himalayas, you might get into snow. You might settle down at the end of the day, so then of course you need to start layering up. So your most important gear, I think, in the Himalayas is your rain jacket, your waterproof jacket. In Western Ghats it's very fun to go on a monsoon trek. You get wet, you enjoy. There you don't want to get wet because you will start having hypothermia and you might die very soon because it's extremely cold once the sun hides itself. So proper rain jacket, right, with a proper hoodie, not like one of these average rain jackets where the water will get in from the top. You need to protect especially the upper body. I walk in the rain typically in shorts because the legs don't matter, legs and hands, it's mostly the upper body that has to stay warm. And then again, I mean, in the night when you settle down in the campsite, once you stop walking, your body cools down. In the night, once the sun sets down, the temperature quickly starts dropping in the Himalayas. Here you might have 5-10 degree difference between day and night. There, from 25 degrees, you can go to 0 and -10 very rapidly as the sun sets down. So then basically you start layering up. So you will carry a lightweight fleece or a lightweight buff jacket. You can even put your rain jacket on top of that. The rain jacket is not only for rain, but also blocks the cold wind. So this combination is actually pretty much okay to stay warm before you hit the sleeping bag. Okay, so and then let's talk about shelter. So what I mostly do at 120 passes, Most of the time, forget about the tent. I'm too lazy, I guess. I don't even pitch up a tent. So what is the tent business all about? Tent is the most heavy thing that you're gonna carry with you. I have to be careful what I say. But again, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. So tent is a heavy thing, that's no doubt. Unless you're gonna spend a lot of money to get a very lightweight tent, which mostly are not available in India. But the thing with a tent, what I see is people carry the big tent 4,000 meter uphill, and what do? They pitch up the tent in the middle of a beautiful Alpine meadow, very beautiful flowers, completely exposed to the cold wind the whole night. So the only purpose that tent has is to actually be outside the cold wind. So instead of that, what you can do is drop that tent at least, go very comfortably during the day, climbing up lightweight, and find a place out of the wind. Find a tree, find a shelter, shepherd shelter, find a rock, find a boulder where you can actually sleep just with a mat and a sleeping bag, or in my case a quilt. So that's why I'm saying, I'm just giving you statistics, 120 days, at least 80, at least 100 days I've not used my tent because I don't need it, I'm out of the wind. So my body heat gets not drained by 12 hours of cold night winds. Rule number 1, always camp out of the wind. In case in the next slide it does get cold or it starts raining, of course you don't have a choice, you're in the open. So then I use, if somebody will pass my little black bag, you can open it normal and take the bivy outside. So one beautiful discovery this year was actually what we call a bivy. You can just pass it to the front. So this is actually my tent, so I even put it in that 10-liter bag. When people ask me, do you have a tent? And I say yes, they don't believe it, they cannot believe that I carry a tent in a small bag. So this is a bivy. In 2018, my first trip in the Himalayas, I also used to carry a proper tent, which is again a bit overkill, especially as a solo hiker carrying a 2-3 person tent. 2.2 kilograms, the lightest one is quite heavy. So I actually carry like what we call a bivy. Forget about the brand. Bivy is a general term if you search on Amazon.com. It's not available in India yet. Hope that Decathlon introduces one soon. 500 gram. And this actually, if you lay it up again, right? So you have the puff jacket, you have the sleeping bag or the quilt, you have the 500 gram. That's the beauty about this thing. 500 gram. Super light. Waterproof, rainproof, windproof. You zip up, here it's open, like you can zip it up completely. You have a small carbon arch there so that you can use the phone, you can read a book inside the bivy. It's big enough to keep my backpack inside. So with these 3 layers actually, with a sleeping mat below, I'm perfectly okay. I've slept with this on the Kangla Glacier at 5,000 meters. I've slept in the cold, ice-cold rain on the base camp of Stoke-Kangri. Phone is still running, super. Stoke-Kangri in the rain at 4,009 meters, very cold, but with this layer, you're perfectly okay. This is a very little volume, it's like a mummy almost. So any body heat gets trapped. It's not like a big tent where the body heat starts leaving the body. Getting cold is all about losing your body warmth. So keeping everything nicely aired up, zipping up this thing is like thermo-proof actually. If you close it fully, you will suffocate because there is no air coming inside, so you need to leave a little gap to be able to breathe. But it completely traps your heat and you're completely fine. Right, so now we're looking at 500 gram tent, 600 gram sleeping bag, 200 gram, 300 gram puff hoodie, a hoodie. You take a hoodie because you don't, your head also has a lot of body heat, so you trap the heat also on the head. And then a 200 gram Decathlon lightweight sleeping bag to protect yourself from the underground. So you come to around 1.3 kilograms, not 8 kilograms to sleep. I've slept in any place that you can imagine over those 4 months. And again, mostly I don't use the bivy because I'm pretty comfortable sleeping in out of the wind in some protected place. So again, just be aware that I'm not doing winter trekking. I'm not going at minus 30, minus 40. This is about May till September. Okay, next. Okay, and that, of course, your backpack. This is where the trouble starts. So once you buy the 50 to 60 liter backpack, you're in trouble. Why? Because you're going to start filling up the back with all stuff that you don't need. So I suggest, and you see my backpack for 2 forts in Maharashtra. That's a 10 liter Quencha running bag. So I just carry 10 liters in the Western Ghats. In the Himalayas, I just go for 30 liter bag, maximum 40. This is like an adjustable bag. So once you have a proper sized backpack, you're gonna all start optimizing your gear and not carrying too much weight with you. Because you don't need more than 30 liters for me, including the food, including the tents, right? Non-commercial trekking, nobody is carrying my food and my camping gears. And of course, proper straps so that you can attach a lot of stuff on the outside, poles, sleeping mat, ice axe, whatever. And of course, either the bag is waterproof or you have it covered. It's very important to keep your sleeping bag and all your nights, Dolphir, welcome to the session. To keep all the night shelter warm, because once it's wet, you're in deep trouble. You need to sleep dry and warm in the nights. Okay, next. Yeah, a couple of slides on hydration and food. So a couple of things on water. So after spending 4 months in the Himalayas, drinking natural water, no filters, many of the Europeans are carrying that live straw filter, which is funny actually. There's no better water than the natural water in the streams, the meltwater from the snow, the glaciers. It has so much of natural bacteria and goodness that improves your digestion. It's alive, that water. Any water I drink in the city from a bottle or a bubble tub is chemically dense. There's no value in that water. That's what I have experienced now living 2 years in the mountains, that the water we drink here is not giving any, except for not making you feel thirsty. There's no goodness left in that water. So again, most people I guess carry 2-3 liters of water with them. I carry 0 liters of water with me. I don't carry any water. As a fast hiker again, and I don't think it's related to fast hiking. Of course I go faster so I reach the next stream quicker. But easily anywhere in the Himalayas, lower, even in Ladakh, Zanskar, in the high altitude deserts, you will find water everywhere, either from the rain or from the glaciers, meltwater. So whenever you have water, you drink a good amount of water, 1 liter, you fill up the stomach, and you're good to go. Within 2-3 hours, you hit the next stream again, you drink. There's no point in carrying too much of water with you. Next one. So this is an important thing again, where you can optimize a lot of weight, right? Instead of carrying like 10 days of food with you, you just always plan carefully till when you're going to reach the next village. You only need to cover village to village. There's no need to do a 3-month trek and carry 3 months of treks. Many of the European couples, like typically these people who go in pension and can spend a couple of weeks in Ladakh, moving with horses on a 3-week journey, they will actually carry 3 weeks of food with them, and then they need 5 horses to carry. They carry tables, they carry chairs, they carry toilet tents, they carry all kinds of stuff, like 50 kilograms per horse. They carry 250 kilograms of stuff with them, unimaginable. And 3 weeks of food, which obviously is very heavy because they're eating pasta and pizza in the middle of nowhere, which again doesn't make sense. You should always eat the local foods. So food, the rule of food is simple. First 2 days, I don't even bother about cooking. You just pack up food from the village, aloo paroto, momos, chow mein, whatever. And those high Himalayas, food stays good at least for 32 hours. That's what I've been experimenting with. So you just pack up food in the morning until the next day, lunch, you're fine. Next day evening again, 2 days, next morning, next day, tomorrow evening, you're reaching the next village, 2-day crossing. So again, you have warm cooked food. There's no point in cooking in between and wasting time. Cooking takes time, it's only in the campsite. Really, you need to do it if needed. Of course, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th day, cooking becomes a necessity because you cannot keep fresh packed food for longer than 2 days. I used to carry like these rotis, right? They actually stay good because there's no oil inside, so they stay good till day 3, 4. But it becomes a little bit hot on the 3rd day. Somebody knock over the kid. So on the 3rd day, what do? I start cooking. So I actually carry these white oats. White oats are very light and easy to prepare. You just mix it with water. Only thing, of course, you need to cook. So how are you going to cook now if I don't carry a cooking stuff with me, if I don't carry petrol or gas with me? So what I do basically is, in the next slide, 2 kilometers before the campsite, when I start settling down, I start collecting horse poop, dry horse poop, not a fresh one. The poop has methane gas inside it. So yak poop, anything that runs around in the wild and that poops, you just scoop it up. Within 2 kilometers you will have a good amount, just not too much. We sprinkle it with, I carry like a small bottle, 100 ml of kerosene with me, and that's enough actually to keep that poop starting to burn. Gives you a very good steady fire just to cook your oats and you're done. You have not been carrying 1 to 1.5 kilogram of stuff and vessels and stuff with you. You can again carry, this was another guy who joined me, but normally I carry a lightweight aluminium decathlon plate with me, super light and easy to cook and eat from. Okay, so, and then of course, yeah, talking about food, again, as I told you, 120 passes, out of 120 passes, easily some 40-50 passes, I come across the kings of the mountains, the shepherds. The shepherds don't have any fancy gears, they don't have any fancy trekking gears, lightweight, modern equipment, they just use their woolen jackets, they just carry a tarpaulin sheet, they sleep in the open, they carry 20 kilograms of rice bags with them and atta flour to make chapatis because they're gonna stay there also for the entire summer. They basically take their maybe like 500, sometimes 1,000, just imagine 1,000 goat and sheep that will fill up the whole building here. That's like an amazing spectacle. You'll see it in the movie that we're gonna play. So they're staying there for easily 4 to 5 months. And of course they need to eat, they need to prepare food. They use these 60 rupees rubber shoes from the local shop. So, and they also go over these very extreme, complicated passes, the non-commercial ones that are not visited by any hikers, that are just used by them to migrate. And as I was telling, why do they do that? They can as well stay, chill out in the village at the base of the Himalayas. They actually take all these sheep from several villages all together. These are not their sheep, these are coming from different villages. So they are like freelancers, you can say, 5 guys taking 1,000 sheep from 10 villages, going months grazing the high alpine meadows, because again the herbal, the medicinal value of the grasses there and the herbs is so good that the quality of the milk, the cheese, the butter, the meat of these sheep is so much better than grazing in the lower plains basically. Okay, and then to come to my point, I put this on the food base because 50% of the time you don't even eat your own food, so you don't have to cook because you end up with these guys with freshly dried goat meat, fresh. As soon as they see you, please come, they start milking the goat, undiluted fresh milk, nice tea, start preparing rotis, nice sabji, pour big amounts of this ghee on top of it, so gives you like back your 3,000 calories that you lost, and you're good to go for the next day. And it's amazing, I mean, staying with these guys, right, surrounded by 1,000 sheep, looking at the Milky Way, the stars on top of you, nice warm glow of the campfire, listening to some old Hindi romantic love songs on the old 20-year-old Philips radio. That's like a unique experience actually. Yeah, just to pass on the mood, but the mood will be easier to pass on with the short film. So a couple of slides at the end on high altitude. How is hiking in the Himalayas different from the Western Ghats? So obviously weather there becomes more extreme. As you go to higher altitudes, you come closer to the Ghats and things get a little rougher up there. The weather changes quite fast, so you have to be careful. I think one slide missing in the PPT is that before you go to the Himalayas, you should always check the weather forecast. Forget about wild animals, forget about difficult terrain, forget about any other threats, acclimatization. I think your main challenge or your main enemy, as you could see it, is the weather. The weather can be very tricky there. Any sudden cloud burst can cause serious landslides, ferocious stream currents that make you completely stuck, sudden rain, fog out, say that you don't see anything, you lose the trail, sudden snowfall that you're surrounded by 3-4 feet of snow. So you need to check the weather forecast actually. I need to add a slide on that before you go. Of course, for me it's not always easy because I'm there for months. I spent like 2 months in Ladakh where I didn't have any news updates or whatever. I think the shepherds at least get their weather updates through All India radio, their old Philips radio which is playing the songs. But weather is your number one challenge, and also the volatile terrain. The Himalayas are a very young mountain range. India is hitting the main Asian tectonic plate. It's growing every year still. And it's very fragile, very brittle there. Rocks keep falling down, as you can see, once you're away from the well-trodden trails. If you go on the real passes there used by shepherds, it's a different kind of terrain. Snow melt glaciers, so we'll go to the next slide to go a little bit. So acclimatization, as I already mentioned, is the main thing. I think every year 80 people die in the Himalayas officially, so probably much more unofficially. One of the main reasons is acclimatization, because it's not very obvious. As you're new to the Himalayas, you just think, okay, let's go to Peak Parvati, 5,300 meters, 2-day trek, let's follow Peter 2 days. they die before they reach the pass, not because they cannot do it, but they don't give enough time for their body, for their brain to adjust to the lesser percentage of oxygen in the air. At 5,000 meters, you only have 50% of the oxygen of sea level. So, as I was saying, only after like 3,000 meters, which means once you land in Leh, you should already take it easy. Don't go to the Kardum line immediately. Every day you should only go like 500 meters up, not more. If you do more, you might end up in trouble. Best thing to do is actually carry one of these little ones which fit on your finger. This is like an oximeter which just checks the oxygen level in your meter, expressed in some chemical formula there. It's very easy, you just put it on, it works on the touch, you don't even have to prick or anything. Normally this is around 70, 80, 90 when you're in your normal habitats. If you go to the mountains, this will start dropping. If you go too fast up, it will go like critical 60, 50 when you're actually in the danger zone and you have to come to lower altitudes. So this is a good investment if you go regularly to the Himalayas. If you go with a commercial group, I think they have some of these devices. Yeah, next. And then in terms of technical gears, again, I'm not a mountaineer, I'm not a certified guy. My technical gears is just basic stuff like poles, ice axes and micro spikes. If we go to the next slide, I will explain the use of each. So once you go on slopey terrain, which is steeper, especially on snow, which is slippery, then it's good as human beings. We are different from the rest of the animals. I see a Chennai Trekking Club t-shirt there, nice. So we only have 2 points of contact. We decided to be a little different than the rest, start walking on our back and legs some time back, which is nice. We have a better view, I guess, but we also have much less stability. 5-6 feet on 2 legs, and for every step you only have 1 point of contact less. So that's the reason why mountain goats with 4 points of contact or monkeys with 4 points of contact are much more agile in the mountains. So having 2 poles, not 1 pole, but 2 poles gives you actually 4 points of contact, which gives you much more stability and security, that you're not going to slide down and die tumbling down 300 meters inside the valley. Next one. Same with landslides, forget about snow. Recent years I've seen a lot of, I've been there for 20 years, but only in the recent years I've seen the impacts of our non-sustainable lifestyle in the big cities. It's not hitting us as much, but it's hitting the people in those high altitude passes much more. As I told, weather is more amplified, it's more extreme at higher altitude, so people there get impacted. This was a beautiful shepherd trail which has been used for generations of shepherds. We didn't want, this year actually it's completely washed away. It's not like a small landslide, it starts at the top of the mountain, the whole topsoil is removed, right? There's very little vegetation there, so very little trees to hold the soil on top of. Underneath it's all monolithic solid rock. So the whole thing gets washed away by sudden cloudbursts, unusual changes in the climate. Again, to cross these kind of landslides, it's good to have 2 poles to be safe. And then most important, I would say, are the next one, these ones. So this is not like a monsoon stream, this is, as I told, a big glacier the size of Banargheta, say, in Bangalore. As far as the horizon, you will not see the end of the glacier. That thing is at 4,000, 5,000 meters, so completely exposed to thin atmosphere and high intensity UV light from the sun. Big surface, midday in the summer, 3-4 p.m. peak heat. So that thing starts melting, and as you walk on these glaciers, you see these small meltwater canals starting every here and there, and then they come together, become big, and once they are big enough, they big tunnels in the glacier, and finally at the tongue of the glaciers, you will see like a huge stream emerging. And then in Ladakh, Zanskar, you don't have these big valleys like in the Western Ghats. These are all like very narrow, like canyons, gorgeous type of things, where a large volume of water has to pass. So it becomes almost impossible to cross these things. Here you can see Palani, my co-hiker, 6 feet guy almost being washed away. Luckily, I was able to get a snap before he went down the drain. So here again, same thing, hiking poles means a lot because the stream is not a flat space, it's full of loose rocks. So you're already wobbling there, you have like hip deep water pushing you. You have that mental insecurity, and then having 2 extra points of contacts will make it much safer to cross these kind of places. You could also use like the shepherds, a wooden stick, but again in Zanskar you're not going to find sticks or trees, so it's better to carry your own poles. And then when we come to the Isaacs, once it's the same thing as the first slide, but here the snow is frozen. It's early morning. This is on the way to Indrahar Pass above Dharmasala, Triumph Peak. So this was in June actually. Normally this would be an open trail, easy to climb on the rocks. But because of the high winterfall in the winter 2018, even in mid-June this place was still covered by snow, which is frozen because the night temperatures are very cold, so morning it takes time for the snow to soften up. So if you have to cross this in the morning, it's simply too hard to kick. It's ice actually almost. So use an ice axe to cut steps and basically traverse these what we call gullies. These are like old gullies. And these things are in the shade mostly. They're a little bit shaded because they're in the corner of the mountain. So they actually never melt till late in the summer. So that means you come across many of these gullies in several of the passes. So Isaacs was one of the most useful tools that I used this year. So then a couple more slides on a very important aspect. Somebody was asking, like maps, right? So you're not going to use the Google map there because the Google map shows the roads in Bangalore. It shows nothing in the hills. You don't use the Google map because you don't have network there, so your map will not load. You're going to use something which is more useful, as I will explain in the next slide. But first of all, you're basically going to use topographic maps, which have contour lines, and contour lines will clearly show you the topography, the elevation, basically the shape of the mountain. So you clearly see the steep areas, you see the gradual areas, you see the valleys, you see the ridges, you see the passes easily. So even though you're there as an explorer, you have never been to this region before, you have a clear idea looking at the map how the hill slopes steeply or less steep in a certain place. So anyone serious here about hiking and outdoors should learn the basics of contours, topographic maps. It's a little bit specific, you're not going to easily find material on that. So that's again why on my website, ultrajourneys.org, I'm currently doing an online free training program, very nice program, online videos, 10 modules, 10 levels, a little bit of theory in the video, and then I'm giving a small online assignment either on the laptop or I'm sending you to a small hill near your city, wherever you stay, to get a little bit of hands-on experience with the topic that we teach so that you become proficient and it sticks in your brain about these important topics like latitude, longitudes, GPS systems, checking satellite maps, all that stuff. It's nicely being covered there. So start using maps, guys. It makes a lot of difference. Instead of paying 20,000 rupees to your commercial group to show you the way, just learn maps and you will spend 200 rupees per pass like me. Next. I hope there might be some commercial group companies or husbands of companies in the audience. Okay, sorry. I take back that last one. Okay, so I said Google Maps is not useful, so also be careful, don't get too inspired, don't immediately book a flight ticket to late tomorrow and go solo there, because I'm talking a little bit from experience here, right? You want to do these things gradually, first maybe with groups, with friends, and then once you're confident about some of these important tools, then you can maybe do some solo trips. So OpenStreetMaps is actually, if you look at any European roaming around in Ladakh, they will be using OpenStreetMaps. OpenStreetMaps actually are useful once you leave the cities and the highways. You go into the wild, you will see forests, you will see glaciers marks, you will see a lot of trails, all the streams are shown there. So it gives you good base terrain information. On top of that, you will have contour lines, so you clearly see the topography of the terrain. And the key here is offline. You can download these maps offline on your phone. It's available in soft copy. You can also buy a paper map, that's also fine. But the beauty about the soft copies of the map is that they, with the GPS in your phone, the phone will exactly show you, bang, here you are. So you know exactly on the map where you're located. You don't even have to worry about the traditional ways of navigation with compass or looking at reference points in the field to find your position on the map. So it's offline. So one beautiful application, this is OpenStreetMaps, it's a public domain system. So whatever you see here is not owned by any company, it's public domain. Everyone contributes to this map. I've been uploading a lot of passes last year. I've been uploading 100 plus new villages which were not marked. Anyone can contribute useful information to this, mostly related to hiking and things in the outdoors. And then you have so many different apps on the laptop, on the phone that you can use to view these maps. One very nice application is called OSM AMD. It's there on the Play Store, it's there on the App Store. It's called OpenStreetMap Android. I guess initially it was available on Android. So you can just install the app, then you can start downloading the map of, say, Uttarakhand. You download the contours of Uttarakhand. You put your phone in flight mode, so you will be able to use the battery for double the amount of time. And you're good to go. You'll be able to go on your own, finding your own way in the wild. But of course, it needs a little bit of experience. But I'm telling you, I mean, this is nothing magic. Just like you route from here to the airport with Google, once you start getting familiar with these maps, in the wild it's the same thing. The blue dot is there, it's just like the blue dot here is there. Blue dot is there, and you just make sure you stay on the trail. You don't start wandering away from the proper trail. So this is a separate topic which will take 3 hours, so check the website if you're interested. And then of course, because you use that phone, right, for so many things, for navigation, for GPS, for photography, photos, I also do a lot of offline blogging with WordPress. Sometimes in Ladakh, 1 month, no network, so I just keep blogging for 1 month, all nicely offline. Then as soon as I reach a city with proper network, WordPress will all nicely flush it on my website. So a lot is happening on the phone, and then of course you want to optimize your battery. Once you switch on your phone in flight mode, any phone which is not old, any battery which is not older than a year will easily come for 2 days once you get out of the mobile network, because you're only using it to view, and only the GPS function will work independent of the mobile network. So 2 days on the battery, you carry another 10 days, 10,000 mAh power bank with you, which is just on 250 grams, so which is okay for the minimalist hiker. Gives you another 2 charges, which means another 4 days. So you got now 6 days of power with you, 6 days, which is more than enough to even roam around in remote places like Zanskar and Ladakh. And then a frequently asked question, right Peter, you quit your job, how do you manage? I already told you, it's only in the cities actually where we spend a lot of money on transportation, on homes, on food, on whatever, on products. No more decathlon talks, so I'm just joking. So main thing is independent. I mean, you're living in a consumer society basically, but once you get in the mountains, and again, I don't mean to Leh Ladakh or Shimla or Manali where it's full of commercial stuff. Once you get in the mountains, once you have your maps under control, you're gonna go to the places where you're alone, where you experience peace, where you experience hospitality, where people are still having their humanity intact, not spoiled by commercial mindset. Nobody is interested in your money anymore. You have your tent with you to stay, you use your feet to move, and you're not using Ola or Uber to get from this pass to the next pass. So you're only spending money on food, and food, let me tell you, in remote villages in Maharashtra for 2 months, in the Himalayas for 4 months, you will never spend more than 50, 60 rupees for a plate of momos, or some chapatis or some bakris in Maharashtra in a small village, as long as you're away from the big cities. So 2 meals per day, you carry some peanuts, you carry some chocolates to keep your salt and sugars intact, so you keep burning calories every day. And easily with 200 rupees you're able to, I've been experiencing it now for months, or for 2 years you can say, 5,000 rupees a day, you're done. Simple, life is very simple, cheap. And many days I don't spend anything, I don't even need to take this 200 rupee note because I'm staying with the shepherds or the Gujarat 40-50% of the time, which will feed you with so much of food, so much of hospitality that you can't even spend money on food there. Okay, so if we make the calculation, so this, I already told, this is like, you normally spend easily 15 to 20,000 rupees on so don't take it personal. So you spend easily 15,000 rupees on a Himalayan pass for the week, right? Okay, you take that week because you need to acclimatize. I'm not saying everybody's gonna jump passes every day, but once you're acclimatized, there's no limitation on the speed anymore. And right, with 200 rupees a day, I spent 4 months in the Himalayas, 20,000 rupees, covered 120 passes. 20,000 divided by 120, I spent around 180 rupees per pass, right? Which is about 100th of what you have spent on the same one pass. So at least start looking at maps. It will at least allow you to venture out, not alone, but with a couple of like-minded people. And more than that, it will allow you to go to explore new beautiful places rather than being surrounded by 500 other trekkers on the way to the Chadar frozen trek or the Hanta pass or whatever. You'll experience real especially that hospitality, which I can tell you is a totally different world. Going to Uttarakhand, non-touristic passes, is a totally different, beautiful experience compared to being stuck in near Manali with 1,000 hikers around you in the Parvati Valley, something like that. Okay, last slide. So, as I told you, I've been documenting. I've now more than 320 blog posts on my blog. As I told you, it took me weeks and weeks to plan these journeys, as there is very little information available, especially on the Indian Himalayas. Nepal is a little better. So I've been documenting a lot of training materials, documenting all the passes in detail, presentations, training programs. If you want to go to Kangra, Kinnaur, Lahore, it's all, you click on the link and you will all get the relevant posts. So just need to spend a little bit of effort, but it's all in one nice little place called ultrajourneys.org. Every Instagram post will point to the website so you can easily find it. So basically, to finish the presentation, I would say, okay, some of you might have commitments. Say you might be stuck in your office, you might be stuck in your marriage, you might be stuck with your 20 years of EMI. Not everyone will have the same freedom to go out there for years. But I've seen a lot of Europeans who have been roaming around, even young people who have not built up any sustainable income, who just save money. And you see, you don't have to save much. You save a little bit of money and then they go out for 1 year into the mountains, and it's a life-changing experience. This actually, this tagline here, Die with Memories, Now Dreams, comes from that July 2017 when I saw the light, when I saw myself growing old in that cubicle, growing old sitting in traffic. It was a very sad future to me. So I hope you also, guys, will not grow old with dreams, but you will do some of these, get some of these experiences, maybe not for years, but at least take a break once in a while, a month, 6 months, and go out there. I think even if you're in a relationship, any healthy relationship needs to give a little bit of freedom to the other side. Unlike what I'm seeing, that people seem to completely disappear, missing person after 2 years of hiking with me, and somebody is hiking. After hiking with me for every single weekend for 2 years, yeah, that was a relocation issue. So then boom, suddenly I think they're missing person. So, but yeah, we know, I guess India is still a bit traditional. I think Bangalore is at least better probably than Tamil Nadu probably, when it's more traditional. So I mean, I've seen couples, married couples in the Alps in Europe, going with little kids on their back, 1, 2-year-old kids. Even in Maharashtra, I saw a couple, Marathi couple from Mumbai going with a 1-year-old kid climbing up a fort. This is the kind of attitude you need to have. You don't throw away your passions out of the door and focus, say, 100% on, it's not about the marriage, it's about this, the daily life, the blah, 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 the smarter life, and just stay commuting to traffic and just sitting in that 5x5 feet cubicle. Alright, so we'll have a look at the movie, because talking is one thing, but nothing like the movie, and then we'll open the floor for questions. We'll probably close the video recording so I can take